Hello team, and welcome to this video where I'm going to be teaching you how to sharpen your hook knife. Now, people think that sharpening a hook knife is very, very difficult, when in fact actually it's fairly easy, probably easier than sharpening something like the axe. We're going to do this all in one take, just like we did with the carving knife, and of course if you have any questions, just drop me the questions in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer them. So what do we need first and foremost? Well, I have designed and used my own sharpening system, as I did with the Sloyd knife, as you've seen. Has leather on one side, suede on the other, and then I can pull these off and I have a dowel which I can sharpen with. Very simple, very easy to use, gets you incredible results. Of course, kangaroo leather, you know my take on kangaroo leather, I wouldn't use anything else. So to that, all I'm going to do is add just this block here. This allows me just to balance the hook knife onto it, which I can then just get a little bit more control from the tool and the sharpening process. So we'll move the strops out to one side for now, we don't need those. You can do this all with my hook knife strop stick and sharpening system. It's an all-in-one system and I'll show you how, but I do prefer to have the strops separate, just makes the process a little bit easier. So the first thing we need to do, just like the Sloyd knife, is have a quick look at the blade. How does it look? Do we need to go coarse? Do we need to remove any chips that are present in the blade? Or can we start at a fairly fine grit and just bring that edge back if the strops aren't doing it themselves? If you look at this hook knife, it's actually got a hollow on the inside. We always sharpen our hook knives on the inside bevel, regardless of the outside profile, for one simple reason. We want to try over time to form, if it's not already, that outside bevel to be slightly convex. And the reason being is it conforms to the shape of the bowl and it stops any chatter. It's just a much sweeter cut, much cleaner, much easier. Also, if we sharpen on the inside, we can then only sharpen on one side, easily remove the burr, and we have a reference surface. And I'll explain that a bit more in detail. So what I'll do, I know that this blade isn't too bad. It does need a touch up, so we're going to start with 1200 grit, just a little piece of paper. I'm going to wrap it around the stick. I'm then going to get a drop of water. And the water, again, just like the Sloyd knife, helped to just remove any dust that might have built up or might build up, and also reduce the swarth getting stuck inside that paper. So we've just discussed about sharpening on the inside of this bevel. If you haven't got this tramline system, it doesn't matter. If it's flat or even slightly convex, you can still work on the inside. If it's flat, sharpen against that whole bevel, you can pen it in. And if it's convex on the inside slightly, sharpen as much of that bevel as you can and that cutting edge at the same time as well. So all I do, I place the hook knife onto this platform here, starting with 1200 grit, I just wrap it around the dowel. I'm going to place the stick onto both tram lines, the top and bottom, and then as I go through, I'm simply going to be pressing down with this stick to find the right angle. I don't have to work and guess at this at all. So let's get this into a nice comfortable position. And all we're going to do, and I'm going to do it in a few stages because a few stages allows me just that little bit more accuracy. If I show you now and take my hand off, it's already balancing on those rails. This rail design was first brought about on hook knives by a guy called Nick Westerman. There's a very good chance you've heard of him, and he produces some incredible tools. I haven't used them in a long time, but they're very, very sought after. And this hollow ground method just speeds up the process tremendously. And all we're going to do is work until we have a burr. We don't want to do any more than that. We don't want to create this massive burr. The larger the burr, the more steel we're going to be wasting. To find a burr, like in my Sloyd knife video, you tilt the knife so that the bevel that the burr is on is 45 degrees, or you've got a light source at 45 degrees coming onto that burr. And I can see already I've got it quite clearly all the way to that cutting edge. Just double checking, it's worth double checking. I'm going to go a tiny bit more here, lift it back up to the light, and I think that's all I really need. So the whole time, I'm really not working that hard with the hand holding this handle here. Everything's being controlled, if I show you, here with this dowel of wood. And you can, if you want to, you can pen that bevel and that bevel. It's entirely up to you. Just depends how confident you feel. Now I've raised the burr, and you may think now I'm going to want to sharpen on the outside, but I don't. I never want to touch that outside bevel. As I say, as soon as you start sharpening on that, you're going to start to flatten it. It's then going to chatter as you try and cut around a curve. A bladesmith puts a huge amount of time and effort into refining this outside bevel, so it's a really nice sweet curve, and it's just a very good chance that we'll mess it up. Totally unnecessary to actually do anything to that outside bevel really, except strop that burr away. So we've raised the burr. I can see that there's a shiny edge running all the way along that cutting edge, and now all I need to do is just wipe that off, just remove the 1200 grit, and we're now going to move up to 3000. There we go, 3000 grit, wrap it round again, and we just need a little drop of water. You don't have to, I prefer it. And then we're going to repeat the same thing all over again. You can see I'm not trying to do it all in one pass. I find I've got more control doing it in lots of smaller passes and working along that hook in basically in sections. So this grit is literally going to remove the scratches from the previous. We've already raised the burr. We're not trying to do any more, sharpening's not the word, we're not trying to do any more removal of steel, more just polishing the steel that we've got there already. And I'd say that's all we need to do. I'm going right up to that edge. And again, I'm not guessing here. I'm not hoping that I'm on the bevel. You're either on it or you're over it or behind it. Or should I say you're on the cutting edge, over it or behind it. And that's all I need to do. Again, put this paper to one side. We're going to wipe it off again. And now we're going to move on to our final grit, which is the 7000. Same thing again, pop it onto the dowel, wrap it around the dowel, nice and tight. You can see it only wraps over just a little bit. I don't want to start wrapping loads of paper around, because then what happens is you start to get compression in it, and I don't want that at all. That's going to then end up micro-convexing that edge, and that's the last thing you want. So last grit. And I'm not checking for a burr each time, because of course I know I've already raised one. I'm covering the whole blade, and you can see now, hopefully, I'm not sure how clear it is, hopefully you can see I'm now starting to get a polish on that inside bevel because I'm using a very fine grit. And again, I love to use abrasive papers simply because it's so cheap, so effective, and so fast, clean, no need to soak it. It's wonderful. I wouldn't use anything else now. So that's it, we have done that inside bevel, and now you can probably see it's got a really nice high polish on it. I'm not sure if the camera's picking that up or not. I'll try and move it around a little bit, hopefully you can see. And now what we need to do, this still isn't sharp, we've actually got a wire edge, very difficult to see, but we've got a very fine wire edge here. Again, if the light is coming down this way, then we'll be able to see it really clearly. If it's coming vertically or coming too low, you won't see it. Best is to have the bevel at flat, parallel to the table, say. 45-degree light coming down onto that bevel, and you'll see a sparkling, kind of glistening wire edge along there. Now we need to remove it. So the way we do that, there's two ways. With the Strop stick sharpening system, I can use the outside here, like this, and then come back on the inside. But my preferred method is actually to use a strop and strop on the outside like so. So what we'll do, we will pop this to one side for a second. We'll get the other strop out, and I'll show you how that works. I like to double up the strops when I'm working on a table like this, simply because it gives me a little bit more height. So we'll start with the leather on the bottom. If you haven't seen my video on these strops, then I'll pop a link up there, you can click that and watch it. But we're going to place that one down, we're going to place this one on top, and then we have a nice surface to work on. Pop the case out of the way, and we're going to pop a little bit of compound. Hopefully you've seen the other video of me sharpening and the other stropping video, but this is Veritas, made by Lee Valley in the USA. Just a little bit along there is all we need. Pop that back in its case. So again, what you can do, blow away some of that dust. What you can do here is pen that bevel in if you want to. Again, I'm not going to, I've done it a number of times. I know that I'm hitting that bevel no problem whatsoever, but if you're a little bit unsure, then definitely worth doing. So we're going to start with, I like to start with putting, and again, we've got to remember the bevel's on, the burr is on the outside here. So there's no point in me working on the inside because you're not going to be able to put any stress on that burr to then be able to snap it off. We'll do 5 or so passes across the whole blade on the outside, 5 on the inside. We're going to keep alternating that until we remove the burr. So I like to start somewhere halfway down the hook, and I go from the middle to the tip, the middle to the heel, or the middle to the toe, middle to the heel. I place my finger on the inside of this tram line here, and then I press it down onto the strop, and then I know I'm contacting that outside bevel right next to the cutting edge and that I'm not over rotating. I then push down along that strop to come to the heel of the blade. And then I start here and I go along, my finger goes along towards the toe. And I repeat this over and over again, about 5 times. 1 there. That's the second full pass. And of course, I'm not putting my finger on the cutting edge. You've got to be very careful you're not sliding it along that cutting edge by accident. So along here, right down to that heel, from the middle, right up to the toe of the tool. So I'll swap over now and go onto the inside. So very, very simple. We take the suede. Again, the suede is the first one. We want to apply the compound to this. Same like we did on the other strop. Just a little bit, we don't want too much, but it's nice to do little and often as opposed to doing lots and infrequently. So we're going to now work on the inside exactly how we did with the sharpening. We let the stick itself find the angle that we're looking for, and I like to do it in lots of small passes. All the way to the tip. And I reckon I'm not going to do much more than that on the inside because I've already moved that burr across. When we're doing the knife, we alternate each pass. A little bit awkward to alternate each pass here, so I do 5 or so. Doesn't really matter. Same again, finger on the inside. We're going to go down onto that bevel, all the way down to the heel. And you can see here that I've still got clearance underneath the tool. If I had one strop, it might be a little bit too low, so just elevate that slightly. From the middle, we're going to go up towards the toe of the tool, the end of the tool, and then back down here, here, all the way to that heel. We'll do a couple more times, and then we'll move on to the inside again. And I might do this 4 or 5 times. Back onto the inside now. And once we've done that a few times, we'll go back onto the outside. You can do this 4 or 5 times, somewhere around about there, and you'll be able to remove that burr. I can have a quick look, and in fact there is no burr left there at all. So I could go on, but I'll just do a couple more passes just for good luck. Back this way, towards the toe. Push on the inside. Find the bevel, gently pass the finger, must go on the inside of the hook, not onto that cutting edge. And then just for good luck, I'll go back on the inside a couple of times. And that's that done. We're going to move on to the leather now. I'll give it a bit of a wipe down, get all that compound off. We don't want that to go onto our leather strop. We want to keep that as clean as we can. Okay, pop that to one side. And then what we're going to do is we'll move on to putting the leather on the top. Now, as in the other video, we want to make sure that we use both strops if possible. We don't want to be using just one. You're always going to get a better edge by using both. So I'm going to place one down here, place the other one on top, like so. And now I can go straight into the leather. I just need to pop the sleeve back on here. And this is just going to give that final sharp edge. It really makes a big difference. And it's definitely worth doing, worth taking the time to go onto both strops. a fine edge lasts much longer than a coarse edge, and that's really worth noting. And then we're going to go onto the tip here. Back onto that bevel. So all I'm doing is placing the tool down, pushing on the inside bevel until I can see it contacting, and I'm riding that nice and carefully, making sure that I'm not overdoing it, I'm not rocking too far, and then I can move on to the strop stick. This time I've taken the sleeve off and I've got my leather one here. Just like this, nice and easy. Of course, take your time, especially when you're starting out. Don't go too quick, because the chances are you'll either damage your strop, you'll cut yourself, and you'll just end up in a frustrated mess. So take your time, use a Sharpie pen, pen that bevel in, and you shouldn't have any problems whatsoever. So that's that, we are done. I might do a couple more, and you can do this as many times as you like. Obviously, the longer you do it, the better the edge is going to be. But so long as that burr has disappeared, and I'll have a quick look again now, which it has, there is absolutely no burr. That means, well, we could go a bit more, but it's really not necessary. So hopefully you can see a patch of arm hair here, and what we're aiming to do with very little effort is be able to remove the hair, cut some wood, and that it leaves a nice clean kind of surface to your skin. You don't want it to be all chewing up your skin, nice and smooth. So again, the test for a sharp hook knife isn't just to do it very quickly. What we want to do is move across that whole cutting edge slowly and see if I'm catching anywhere. Those catches basically represent dings in that cutting edge, and you have to go back again. So we'll go from one end to another, all the way, no problems whatsoever. And a truly sharp blade, you should be able to wiggle it around, and I'll show you what I mean. Like so. If it can do that, it's far sharp enough for wood carving. So hopefully you enjoyed that video. Hopefully I've gone through everything there. Of course, ask any questions you have in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to press the bell notification to be notified of any videos I upload. And of course, if you do enjoy the content I share, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really helps me out. It just allows me to take time out to be able to do these videos and get them out to you as often as possible. So until next time, happy carving, happy sharpening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.